First time I tried intermittent fasting, I tried doing it with 6 meals.
Six meals in a 6 hour period?
It may have been a 6 hour period, or I don't remember now if it was 6 hour period, 8 hour period. But
that means you're eating
what I was
hour.
doing once every hour.
12 o'clock?
AdventFit is a podcast that has a holistic approach to physical, spiritual, and mental well-being. In each episode, we share productive ways to live a healthier and happier lifestyle. Unlike other podcasts in this space, AdventFit gives you a comprehensive approach to fitness without the fluff for the everyday Christian. We're talking about intermittent fasting. Now, this is something that people hear all the time. They keep hearing about intermittent fasting. What is intermittent fasting?
Do they really hear it all the time, though? Is that
I mean, in the gym and people who are just interested in health. I was at a health seminar, and then somebody raised their hand and they asked about, do you think intermittent fasting is a good idea to try out? A lot of people, it's been something that's been popularized over the years.
Some intermittent fasting where you eat on one day, then don't eat the next day. Then you eat on one day, then you don't eat the next day. So you alternate days for eating.
Really, I've never heard of alternate days.
Yeah,
I've heard about doing a 1 day fast for 24 hours once a week, and things like that. But some people, the typical American type of diet is you're gonna have breakfast in the morning, and then you're gonna have lunch around noon time. You're gonna have dinner in the evening. What ends up happening is that people end up eating all throughout the day, from the moment they wake up all the way to the evening time before they go to sleep. And when do you allow your body to actually digest the food? And sometimes they even snack in between. And so the intermittent fasting concept is counteracting that. It's eating only for part of the day, but the majority of the day, the majority of the 24 hours is spent fasting. Is spent not eating. It cycles.
It can be either
fasting.
Be smaller or larger. I think the time that I did it, I think I had a 6 or 8 hour span?
Yes. So intermittent fasting is either a 6 hour span of eating or an 8 hour span of eating. If your time of eating is longer, then it's no longer considered intermittent fasting.
Some people do it shorter though. Some people have 4 hours.
Some people could do it shorter. Some people may even do one meal a day, and so therefore it's only the amount of time it takes them to eat it. So if they eat the meal in 30 minutes, they only have a 30-minute window.
Yeah, but, I don't know. Yeah.
But the point is that the typical intermittent fast is 6 to 8 hours of eating.
Yeah.
And the rest of the time is spent not eating. So 18 hours of not eating or 16 hours of not eating.
Yeah.
That amount of time is spent fasting. And so for me personally, I like the 6 hour window.
Do you actually do it?
Yep. I when I do intermittent fasting, I would start at noon. That'll be my first meal at noontime. Then at 3, then at 6. So I'll do intervals of 3 hours. So 12, 3, and 6, which makes 6 hours. But then the rest of the time, I'm not eating.
I used to do that, but then it didn't really work with my schedule as a teacher. If I wasn't teaching, I'd probably do that again. But being as a teacher, it doesn't work out for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe the first time I tried intermittent fasting, I tried doing it with 6 meals.
6 meals in a 6 hour period?
It may have been a 6 hour period, or I don't remember now if it was 6 hour period, 8 hour period. But
that means you're eating
what I was doing once every hour.
12 o'clock?
Yep. So I had my alarm every hour. So it most likely was then a 6 hour window. Every hour, my phone would ring, and it will let me know time to eat another meal. And so I had super small meals. You don't do full on meals when you do a six meal.
Meal 4.
It was interesting. I mean, I ended up settling with just a 3 meal thing. Some people do 2 meals, some people do 1, some people do 6.
1 meal has to be a very large meal.
Yeah. But I settled with a 3 meal cycle. Now, the purpose behind intermittent fasting is the idea of 1, portion control. Intermittent fasting is not meant that you just eat as much as you want. Now, some people with the 1 meal do that, but that's maybe not the smartest way of going about it. I mean, there's only so much you can eat in 1 meal anyway. But the idea behind intermittent fasting is that there's portion control. And there's also time control.
I mean, you can do portion control, but that's not actually, it's not a whole part of intermittent fasting. But
good intermittent.
I'm
saying good intermittent fasting has portion control.
Yeah.
Like, because if you're just being like, I'm going to eat as much as possible within these 6 hours, that's not healthy intermittent fasting. Yeah. But you're right. You could do intermittent fasting.
But if you're doing one meal, you have to have a huge meal. You can't try to, skimp on it.
Oh, no. You got to try to get your full calories.
You got to have everything.
In that meal.
You got to have the whole world in that meal.
I don't necessarily suggest a 1 meal intermittent fasting. It is technically intermittent fasting. But again, what worked for me, I've tried the different types. What worked for me was the 3 meals within 6 hours. And so, the purpose of it is portion control, or at least that's one of the benefits of it. It helps you with portion control and time control. So you're setting it at a time where you're not like eating it right before you go to bed. Now, again, you could technically do intermittent fasting and do it that way, but I'm talking about good intermittent fasting.
Eat before you go to bed, just regardless.
Exactly. And so it also controls you from eating too early or again, waking up, first thing you do is eat. Now, not saying that's a bad idea, but if the last thing you do is eat and the first thing you do is eat, you're like, your whole day is just spent eating.
Yeah.
So again, it's about portion control, time control, and also it helps with your digestion. Mm-hmm. It gives you a good space of time to digest your food. With that being said, I do not recommend intermittent fasting to most people.
Interesting.
And the reason why I don't do that...
Waste of an episode.
No, this is going to be recommended to a select few people.
Okay.
And if you're listening to this podcast, you might be part of that select few. But also, I'm also saying this because most people hear intermittent fasting, they think it's the golden ticket, and they try it and they really
or
mess
like a magical
up.
pill, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's why I wanted to do this episode, because people have this idea that intermittent fasting is going to be this thing that I'm going to do and it's going to solve all my problems. And I just wanted to talk about it so that it can kind of get rid of that notion and show who should do intermittent fasting and
if
who
you have
should avoid
6
it.
or even a 4 hour period and you're eating just Big Macs and fries, like, that's pointless.
Exactly. And so that's why I say I wouldn't recommend intermittent fasting to most people.
Yeah.
Because you want to incorporate intermittent fasting after you've already changed the contents of your diet. Changing the timing of your diet is not as important as what you're eating in that diet.
And when you change, you should be changing gradually. Don't try to go from 0 to 100.
Exactly. And that's why I don't recommend intermittent fasting to most people.
Yeah.
Because it's a very big change. Most people have the goal of losing weight, right?
Yeah.
Or they have a goal of gaining muscle, or a combination of the two. Intermittent fasting is not the first step.
Yeah, you gotta walk. Things. I mean, you gotta crawl before you can walk.
You gotta walk.
You gotta walk before you can run.
Exactly, and you gotta run before you can fly. So, again, the first step behind any of those things isn't intermittent fasting. I would say it's one of the much later steps. Yeah, actually.
And it's not essential. You don't have to do it.
And exactly, it's not essential. So again, I find that people are jumping to something like intermittent fasting way too early in their health journey. Again, it's not necessarily going to hurt you for some people, but it will hurt these group of people that I'm going to mention. Yeah, it's going to hurt the person whose digestion is not at the best situation. If your digestive system is not moving quickly, then intermittent fasting is a recipe for just being extremely bloated. And one person was asking me about that. I was like, how can you eat meals so quickly to each other? Like how do you allow your body to digest? That's a very valid question. Yeah. But for me, when I incorporated intermittent fasting, I had already been on a raw diet for a long time. And so my digestion was already at a quick pace that I was already pooping before the next meal. So you really want a good gauge is to poop as many times as you eat. Interesting. I'm not saying that you have to, but that's generally speaking a good rule of count. If you eat 3 meals a day, you want to be pooping
just have 3 times a day. 1, 2, 3.
Speed up your digestion. You want to drink more water. You want to increase your fiber, and once you find yourself being more regular, then maybe incorporating intermittent fasting. But again, it's not necessary.
Yeah, definitely.
So then, when would it be necessary? This is what I think. This is when I think it would be necessary, and this was necessary for me. When you hit a plateau. So again, your bathroom breaks are regular, and you've hit a plateau. What is a plateau? So if you've been trying, let's say, to drop some body fat, right? And you've been, most people, if you're following good dietary tips, good exercise tips, you've been following that, you should be losing at least 1 pound once every 2 weeks. Would you agree with that?
1 pound a week.
Yeah. I'm saying worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario.
I'm saying what I'm saying about 1 pound once every 2 weeks is because I'm not saying, like, if you didn't lose a pound this week, you shouldn't be like, I said I hit a plateau.
Okay, yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I mean.
Yeah.
So if every 2 weeks you at least dropped 1 pound, you're at a steady pace.
Yeah.
But now if it's been 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you haven't dropped any pounds of body fat, at that point I would say you hit a plateau. And at that point, that may be a good moment if you're regular.
Yeah, you can do that, but you can also incorporate different kinds of exercises, or
that's what I'm saying.
Drop it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I agree with you, Jeff. So maybe try other things. Maybe change up your workout or change up your diet. If you've done all those things now, and you hit a plateau, and it's been 3 weeks, you're like, I can't change my diet. I can't change my exercise plan. What am I gonna do? Or I've already tried to vary it up. What am I gonna do? At that point, maybe changing your timing of eating in terms of intermittent fasting would be helpful. So for me personally, what I did, I was at 7% body fat after doing the raw diet for a number of months. But I wanted to drop even lower. I wanted to get below 6% body fat.
Yeah.
But I was at a plateau. I think I may have even hit the plateau just a little bit above 7% body fat. But I wanted to get to my goal.
Yeah.
And so it's been a number of weeks, and I'm like, what's going on? I can't eat any healthier. I'm working out all the time.
And one thing that could be, I'm not sure if this is your issue, but sometimes if you're not losing weight or not gaining muscle, it could be that your sleep schedule is a problem.
That's
sleep is
another
when everything
thing.
happens.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah. And so for me, I was like, I can't change my diet. I can't change my workout schedule. I'm already working out a lot. So then I decided to incorporate the intermittent fasting. And I did, and it broke through the plateau, and I was able to drop below the 6%. I was able to drop below 7% body fat, and then afterwards I started incorporating 2 workouts a day, and that's when I dropped below 6% body fat. So again, doing different things to drop to break through the plateau is very helpful. There are a number of things that we could do to incorporate into our life to break through the plateau. For some of you guys, you might be ready to incorporate intermittent fasting. For some, you may not be at that point. It may not be necessary, and that's okay. If you want to check out all these other tips to break through the plateau, you can check out some of the previous episodes where we talk about some changes that we could be made in our lives. You can check out some of the future episodes. Like in the next one, we're going to dive in a little bit more with intermittent fasting, particularly with rest days, and talk about the benefits of rest days in our next episode. So make sure you subscribe on our website, AdventFit.org. And if you want to follow me and either communicate with me or even read the article that I wrote about intermittent fasting and I talk a little bit more about my own personal reasons and journey with going into it, you can go to my website, WayneJamel.com.
And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Mr. Woke. That's WHOKE.
So thank you, folks, and I'm Wayne Jamel.
And I'm C. Jeffrey Wipe, and this is for channel. So go to the YouTube channel or the podcast channel and subscribe. And we'll see you next week, folks.
If you enjoyed this episode, why don't you click the like button?
And the notification bell.
Ding!
And if you really liked it, please share this episode with someone close to you.
But before you do that, subscribe to AdventFit.
Exactly.